Mine. All right. Hi, ladies, and welcome to Meetings with Masters. I am so honored to have each and every one of you here with me once again, but all together as this powerhouse team that you are, who are going out there and making an impact in the world with the Choose Love movement in honor of Jessie Lewis and Scarlett's Choose Love movement. I will let you, Scarlett, introduce yourself first, if you would. Some of you may remember me speaking to Scarlett several weeks back about her journey from after losing her son in the Sandy Hook shootings, the Sandy Hook school massacre. Scarlett, thank you so much for being here again. Let me first have you introduce yourself and what the three of you are doing together, because this is what I want to talk about tonight and be able to share out in the world the impact that this can make, and that we hope that everyone else out there will go and share. So please, Scarlett.
Thank you so much, Gina. This is such an honor to be here, and I'm thrilled to be here with two very dear friends of mine that I have traveled with and spoken with, venerable authors in their own right. And so Dana Liesegang and Kate Mackinnon, just dear friends, wonderful light workers in our world. I've learned so much from both of them. I came late to the table, really, but through my personal tragedy, my 6-year-old son was murdered at Sandy Hook Elementary School. And I just decided after that, how can I go back to any semblance of my former life? I just decided that if my life was going to change, I was going to change it 100%. And I could do nothing but dedicate the rest of it to trying to be part of the solution, understanding that what happened to Jessie was 100% preventable, as well as what happened to the troubled young man that was the perpetrator of the crime. And so through my journeys, I have met incredible people, everyone on this podcast, and also your two guests, Dana, who's been through her own, has her own incredible survival triumph story, and Kate, who I was introduced to by Wayne Dyer, and who was actually Dr. Wayne Dyer's personal craniosacral therapist and energy worker. He actually gifted me a session with Kate, which I'll always remember every second of that session, Kate, where we were, what happened, what we talked about, the healing that I received from you, through you. And then, we've just stayed friends. These are, the people that you meet right away and you just know this is my friend for life. And so here we are. This is I think 5 or 6 years later, and we've traveled the country together. We happen to all be Hay House authors, all with introductions written by Wayne Dyer. And that's a beautiful thing to have in common as well. So I'm just so honored to be here with everyone today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. And Dana Liesegang and Kate Mackinnon and you, all three of you, have been here with me for. Dana and I thankfully have become very, very close, and I'm inspired by her every day, and every one of you. And I've and thankfully been able to have a healing by Kate, and it was amazing, and I will certainly not forget it either. And each one of you are light workers in this world, and what I know that the journey that you've been through, the trauma that you've been through, is what lit you up to go out and make this difference in the world. That what your son did and said and wrote at his young age, before his tragic, murder, is making the difference for other people. And so I know that the three of you are doing really amazing work to help people choose love first, to teach people to choose love first, and So, and at the end of this, I'm going to put a link to all of our original, our separate broadcasts, so that if somebody wants to go back and hear the full story of each, I mean, Dana's survival story is remarkable. You know, Dana, you know, why don't you I want to let each one of you introduce yourselves and share a little bit about yourselves. And then I would really love you guys to just really discuss what you're doing in the world. Does that sound good? Yeah. Awesome. Because I want to be here to help you all make that impact in whatever way I can. So please, Dana, share who you are, my friend.
Well, it is an honor and a pleasure to be on again with Kate and Scarlett and you. And it's Dana Liesegang. And I was blessed also to have a session with Kate. And I was going to go whale watching instead. And the universe kind of went, no, let's have a storm. So then I was like, okay, I'll go do this craniosacral thing. And I'd had it before. And then when I had it with Kate, it was life altering. I was like, oh, okay, that's never what's happened before. So you have to go through the mud and the muck to get to the meadow on the other side. And Kate so graciously helped me through that. And to meet these beautiful ladies through Wayne Dyer and share our book tours together it was such a precious gift. And my book is Falling Up, My Wild Ride from Victim to Kick-Ass Victory. And it's that title because I was raped and thrown off of a cliff, and I've been falling up ever since.
You have indeed. I have been the honor of being part of your journey for the past several months, and just amazing, even in this time since we first met, how free and excited and forgiving that you are, and free, like everything's light and loving, and the love that you all have and that you exude and that you share is so needed in this world today. And so thank you. I mean, your book Falling Up certainly inspires me. My mom and all of her, my mom's got a whole book club. They're all reading it, and I have to get well,
that's what inspired me to work with Scarlett, is because when I learned about the Choose Love movement and how she forgave Adam Lanza and I forgave my attacker, and through social emotional learning, neither Adam Lanza nor the young man that put me in a wheelchair would have done the heinous crimes that they did. So it aligns with them and the healing and the healthy touch that Kate teaches, that we just are like a triad of healing.
I mean, the forgiveness is amazing, and I want to get definitely deeper into that and what you all are doing. And so let's just let Kate come in and introduce herself a little bit, and then I want to definitely dive more into that, because that is so powerful. Thank you. So Kate, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back, Gina, and bringing us all together. This is so fun, and it's bringing up lots of great memories because it's been a number of years that it's amazing how we've done multiple things, and time keeps moving forward. So it's great to be all together. And so my background is as a physical therapist. In fact, I specialized working with children with disabilities for many years in the UK, and then moved to America and heard about craniosacral actually in London, where a lot of the kids I was working with were receiving it, and received it myself, and just knew it was kind of a point at which I was, okay, I want to know as much about this as possible. And I still continue to learn to this day. And it's just been really following this passion as wholeheartedly as I can, that has led me to end up working with Wayne Dyer, and then to meeting all these amazing people, and Scarlett and Dana and I, the three of us, just realized that we have a connection where we come at things from different perspectives, and we've had our different healing journeys, but I think the commonality is we all just follow our passion and want to. I think the bottom line is we just don't want people to experience some of the things we've experienced, and we want to if there's a way we can make that easier and to prevent some of these things from happening to our up and coming children, you know, the next generation, then I want to be part of that. You know, I'm raising my hand for that.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Thank you. And that's so powerful. And I mean, just when you and I first talked, Scarlett, and you were sharing about how you were taking this, you know, talk about the Choose Love movement and how you're taking it out there to schools, to families, that it's free, that, you know, that when we start with children, right? Like you all said, like Dana and Scarlett, you're the people that, you know, Dana, your attacker, both attackers, you've forgiven them, that they would not have done these things if they had love first, if they had known love, if they had known social and emotional intelligence and learning. So please share. Tell me about it. Tell us about it. Tell everyone who's watching.
Well, actually, I started the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement after finding a message that Jessie had written on our kitchen chalkboard. Shortly before he died, he wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. It's like right around the corner from where I'm sitting. And I knew immediately that if he had been able to give and receive, this is Adam Lanza, the former student of Sandy Hook Elementary School, whose mother had taught at the school, who came back to the school to murder 20 first graders in 2 first grade classrooms and 6 educators in one of the worst mass murders in US history. And I knew instantly when I saw Jessie's message that if Adam Lanza had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, the tragedy would never have happened. I mean, it's pretty simple. Simple isn't necessarily easy, but I realized that I had to get that message into schools. And so I started researching how to do that. And I came upon social and emotional learning. Now, there are decades of research behind the benefits to children of teaching them these essential life skills, like how to have healthy relationships, how to manage your emotions, how to grow through difficulty in your life, how to make responsible decisions. I mean, all these things sound so basic, but we have to learn them. And they're the key to having, the key to flourishing in our lives, and necessary to learn this stuff. And so I looked out to see what was out there, and I decided, you know, Jessie himself was, my son was priced out of the market in Sandy Hook Elementary School because the programming is very expensive. And I thought, you know, this is kind of a nice area. And I thought, oh my God, if we're priced out of the market here, then I need to create a program that is accessible to every child, because every child needs this. And so went to the drawing board and created the Choose Love enrichment program. And it's pre-K, it's actually starts infant toddler, pre-K through 12th grade, goes into homes and communities now. And all of the programming is no cost, because for me, this would have saved my son's life. And it's so important. These are skills and tools that you use throughout your life. You know, and Kate and Dana are helping me. Dana is our Choose Love movement ambassador in Colorado and helping us spread the message there. She's going to be helping us with speaking and professional development. She's helping us move into the workplace. And Kate has written an extension program for us that is now just directly into, will be in our version 2 coming up. And that is, it was Compassionate Touch, and now it's going to be called Compassionate Connection. And I remember the conversation that we were having, Kate, you know, talking about what would I was traveling across the country, and all these teachers were saying to me, gosh, you know, the kids, they're suffering, and, you know, 50% are coming to school having experienced a recent traumatic event, yet, you know, like, what do? You can't really console them. And so then I'll never forget when Kate said to me, well, you know, there's a way to do it, and there's a healthy way to do it. And healthy touch is so essential for human flourishing. And then, you know, what you said was just so monumental that I knew that we had to work together, and had to be a foundational element in the Choose Love movement, because it's just so important.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is truly so important from just, I'm thinking about so many things right now, because I also, you know, of course there's so much talk about the sex trafficking is one of the biggest, you know, problems in human history, right? And that if people can learn that healthy touch, Kate, and learn how to choose love, and learn what you all are teaching, it has to have an impact that would stop this from happening so much, and what it's doing to, you know, what it's doing to our children in our world. And it's, what do you, I mean, I know that there's some, you guys are talking about that in right? I feel as though, Dana, our part of our conversation was about that you were going to be bringing that in, because if the touch is safe and loving, and Kate, why don't you bring in talking about that, the touch, and how that can make an impact on, you know, the human connection, and the love that someone truly feels in their life, and the safety, how it can feel safe.
Right. And I think, you know, we have so much fear around touch. Like, you know, when Dana and I started, when Scott and I were talking about it initially, it was like, well, it's kind of a taboo topic. I mean, is that a good idea to really bring that in? And I think that right there is a bit of a red flag, that we feel it's taboo. Because once you start taking something off the table and not talking to our children about it, you know, we leave them wide open to this kind of predatory behavior, because we know that many of our children, unfortunately, are experiencing touch that isn't healthy. It's more on the abusive end of the touch. Like, really, touch is a continuum, right? It, just like Scarlett and Dana were sharing, there can be profound healing through touch.
Yeah.
Right. And then there can be extreme trauma created through touch, right? So we've got the whole continuum. So are we going to chop off that healthy end because this can happen? And that's the question we're really facing as a society. You know, if we say, this is no touch happens in the classroom, we think we're making our children safe. But my argument to that is, then what skill set have you taught our children? You know, and you need, just like you need to teach social emotional learning, you need to teach healthy touch. I mean, it just is all part of the same package. You can hardly separate them, really.
Let me tell you, like, the first time Kate and I talked about it, Kate said, because I was saying that teachers were telling me, you know, I can't console the child. I want to pick him up and bring him in my lap and hug him, but I can't. And Kate said, well, you know, this is why touch is so necessary. And I'll never forget this, Kate. You said, this is the proper way to do it. You see a child that needs consoling, that's crying maybe, and you say, may I touch your shoulder? And the child can say yes, and then give permission, and then you touch the shoulder. That might have been the first time that child has ever experienced healthy, compassionate touch. And now they know what it feels like. And then on the other side of things, they can say no and have their boundaries respected. And it might be the first time in their lives that their boundaries ever were respected. And I was blown away, because I mean, I don't know, I just never thought about it. And that is, it's a fundamental lesson that every child has to learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's all around consent, which is, you know, how you, Dana, were so impacted, right, through consent. I mean, consent is such a huge issue that profoundly affected you.
Yeah. Well, and if you have a lot of parents, because in many families, sexual trauma happens, and then your parents grow up or other people. Adults grow up not knowing healthy boundaries. They don't know how to teach healthy boundaries. So it's the importance of getting it to our children now is their parents might not know healthy boundaries. Their parents might not know healthy touch. And how can they teach what they don't know? And that's why it's so important that this is taught to our children today. And when they know healthy touch, they also can be taught to listen to the inner uh-oh feeling of, I was taught this is healthy touch. This doesn't feel good. This feels uh-oh. Let's listen to that uh-oh. Had I been taught to listen to my uh-oh feeling, I would have told the young man to turn the car around and drive back to base that put me in this wheelchair. But I didn't listen to that. I overrode that because it was always something that it couldn't be taught to me because it wasn't known. And therefore I didn't have the intelligence myself. And I'm not alone. Many of you in the audience watching this have had the same experience. And you blame your parents, but you can't blame your parents if they didn't know. Now we know better, we do better. I believe that's Maya Angelou.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And imagine learning boundaries that young, like that, those healthy boundaries, but it's also the parents that we need. And I know you're doing that also, is teaching this to parents and children. So everyone needs to really, especially with all that's going on in the world right now. I mean, let's think about touch for a minute and how it's impacted us for the past, since March.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like about a month or two ago, I just started hugging my parents again. I mean, we had a funeral last week. My cousin died. And I said to my uncle, can I hug you? And he hadn't touched anybody in months. And it was like, it was, so he needed it. He needed it. So we need the healthy touch, and we need to learn how to have the healthy boundaries. So please, anyone who's watching this, please, I implore you to please share this video, because what the ladies are doing is so important. And please, ladies, let's just have a conversation on what are you doing? How are you bringing it out there, and keep talking about it. We have to talk about safety, about healthy boundaries, about knowing unhealthy boundaries, and helping our kids know that. Most of us probably didn't know that as kids, did we?
Well, what's interesting, Gina, is which I've been observing, and as you just shared it, is I just find, it's just like looking at our whole thing of what's happened. And I'm just like, part of me is just dancing and happy because you asked for consent, right? And that, ironically, that we're seeing way more of that now because it's not assumed, right?
Right.
So people are saying, are you okay with a hug? Or, and there's this sort of reciprocity and consent going on, and people checking in. I mean, there's a lot that's hard about it, but it's fascinating to me. Is exactly, I mean, even with family members, you can't assume your uncle, he might not, I mean, aside from COVID, he may or may not have wanted that hug because of his own grief process and where he happened to be in it. But that normally you wouldn't have checked in, right? So no. It's kind of fascinating to me that it's one of the things that is arising, is that where we are asking for consent way more than we ever used to.
Yeah.
I actually got a no from a very, very good friend who's been my friend for 18 years. I got the no. He was very angry about it, oddly enough, and it was asked over the phone. I'm like, yay, you're back from Italy. I can hardly wait to give you a hug. And he blew up about not wanting to be touched by anyone. I was like, woo, okay. So then I had to step back and respect that boundary myself and understand that this is where he's at right now, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's a different unhealthy touch, right, than what you were originally creating this around. You know what I'm saying? It's a different boundary because of people are afraid of getting sick as opposed to afraid of pedophilia or what have you. Right. But it's bringing light to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's bringing light to it. We're discussing it more. We're discussing the fact that we're missing hugs. We're talking about touch deprivation. It's like initially when this all happened, I'm like, oh yeah, great. Now we can't touch. This is like, it's like, we can't really take this forwards anymore. But ironically, where we're at now is it's happening. You know, we're realizing we miss touch, that it is essential to us. We can't just ignore it and say no touch, because as adults we're missing it. So why would we deprive our children of it? So yeah, I mean, it's bringing up some great discussion.
I mean, we know that babies, right? We know that babies are who aren't. Is that what you were going to say, Dana?
Exactly. You are on the same page.
You know, when they're not hugged, that they have that deprivation, that they're sad, or that they're
well, babies won't thrive, and
they won't thrive.
They'll die. They can die.
So, you know, it's as essential as food for a newborn.
Yeah. Right. Well, we go ahead, Dana. Is that what you were about to share? Yeah. Thrive. I couldn't get that word out. They won't thrive, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I've experienced the hug deprivation myself, and monks did a study on how to maintain a healthy emotional state, is that you should have at least 4 hugs a day. Mm-hmm. And that's just to create a healthy emotional state for the average human being. Not little kids who need it probably 10 times as much, and from each other. And like, little kids console each other all the time, but if they don't know how, or they don't know how to do it in a healthy manner, you can't just go randomly grab a kid as a kid, because some kids don't want to be hugged. There's, you know, the kids that are like, why are you hugging me? And the other one's like, because I'm supposed to. And they squeeze even harder, and then it makes it even worse. So teaching it as to the children also teaches it to the adults at the same time, whether they want to learn it or not.
It's so, and I think I shared this with you when we spoke, Kate, when I a couple of years ago, I went to training to be just a substitute teacher when I got divorced, just looking for work, different work and whatnot. And they said, do not touch the children. Do not. And I'm a loving, like, I'm a toucher. I'm affectionate. And I had a very hard time when there was a little, fourth grader girl crying in her seat or what have you. And I had a very hard time not touching her shoulder and asking her how can I help you? It was very difficult, because it would have been a very loving touch for her to feel in that moment.
And what happens when I want to ask Kate, when you are touch deprived, what happens? And then, because, I think that with all of COVID, I think I didn't hug JT, who's my 20-year-old son, and I hug every time I see him. I just want to squeeze him. And then I became afraid. And, he's with his girlfriend who works in a grocery store. And I was like, she's around people and he's around her, so I'm going to not. And then, it got to be like, I think it was a month, or I'm embarrassed to say maybe 6 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't hugged anyone, and I haven't hugged JT. So that, and I felt bad. What are your thoughts about that, Kate?
Well, I think there's so much connection, and there was a study done where through touch alone, we can read 8 emotions accurately. Cool. So we know, especially like our kids, they may sort of trying to be faking something, like, oh, I'm okay. And you hug them and you're like, you're not okay. You can feel it, you can sense it. So there's a lot of information that we just have learned to interpret through touch, just through touch. And I think the other thing it does is because it helps regulate our nervous system. So we know that we're getting a little dysregulated just with the amount of fear and bombardment of information that's ever changing, and some logical policies are made and then some totally illogical policies are made. And so it's very dysregulating. And one of the things that we go to as human beings to start to regulate ourselves is touch. Because, how do you carry on talking about some of the illogical stuff? It's just crazy making. So you don't need to talk anymore. Talking is not going to be helpful. And that's what happens for children. They get to a point where their brain is kind of offline. So the only way you're going to help regulate their nervous system is through a touch and just having a hug. I mean, we can stroke ourselves, and that's what I shared, with the Choose Love movement, is just, our nerves are just like, they love that stroking. And it literally goes straight up to an emotional center in the brain. I mean, there's hard neurology around that. So so I think really the biggest piece is helping to regulate our nervous system, and my goodness, we all need as many of those tools as possible.
I know, right? Think of how it just if someone touches your arm, you touch the arm of a loved one, it's like, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's all. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. So how, what I'm thinking about is how do you find that balance? How do you teach the balance? It's a fine line, right? Or isn't it? How do you teach it, ladies? Well, how are you going to go out there and show people how to really have that balance, the healthy boundaries, healthy touch?
A lot of it is around consent. So you say, may I touch you? Or you just do this. You put your, I mean, particularly for children, like if you're bend down and you open up your arms, if they want it, they'll hop in your lap. If they don't, they won't. I mean, children, and I've seen this taught at an 18-month-old level. My children went through the Montessori school, and this is, what they started to learn as toddlers. May I touch you? They were shown how to touch. Oh, I think that touch hurts. Maybe a little gentle. Can I show you on your arm what that would feel like? You start to demonstrate it. You model it. You sort of cue them. They look a little sad or upset. Can you see that on their face when you hug them that hard, or when you hold them that hard?
I imagine role play. You could have them in an actual, when we
play.
Can actually have classrooms again and kids together.
Right.
You can have them role play with each other, just like we do at certain. And
we're modeling it way more than we used to now. May I hug you? Are you okay with a hug? Yeah. I mean, we're starting to model what we should have been modeling all along, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Just because I'm a hugger, I can't assume that other person is a hugger.
Right.
And how do we have the nuance of that when we have a hug? Are you paying attention when somebody's starting to withdraw, and they're fine with that hug? When they come in, do they want a close one, or are they, so that's starting to read one another. I mean, it's like a dance, right? But if we can start to understand that and start to play with the nuances of it, as we're children, young children, then as teenagers, when we start to explore our sexuality more, we have way bigger tools in our chest. Like, we know so much more about how, like Dana was saying, is that a uh-oh feeling? Like, don't like that. That's too much. And being able to feel safe to share that.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Dana, you were the teenager. That was you, so it's, and you think just what you're saying, I'm thinking about all those young teens that are the girls that are, having that little bit of pressure by a young man or what have you, but then to be able to learn those healthy boundaries earlier, which I certainly didn't know. Doesn't sound like maybe you didn't know, right, Dana? What are you feeling there, sister?
Boundaries were not even a thing in my house.
Right.
So. And that's not to blame my parents, because they didn't know. You can only teach what you know.
Right. And I think you shared in your book, Dana, about like the physical violence, right? That was experienced. So that was part of what your system, like your touch repertoire, right, was very skewed towards that more harmful experience of touch.
And for me, it was normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's normalized. Right. And, I was put in the presence of an uncle that was a known child molester, continuously put it in his presence. So to end up being molested by him, and at the age of 14 was like, in my mind, I was, why would you put me in their presence? But it goes back generations. And so those before me didn't know how to teach because the same things happened to them. So that's why it's so important that it comes from an outside program to teach these children now with the social emotional learning and the social emotional intelligence and the compassionate touch, or what is it being called?
Compassionate connection.
Compassionate connection, which makes sense because you say the word touch and people are like, oh, they're not teaching my kid how to touch, right?
Right.
So the compassionate connection, we can model and teach kids that might be learning similar things that I learned, like you doesn't matter if you like uncle who and so or cousin so and so, you are going to hug them. That's what you're expected to do. It's okay if they pat you on the butt. That's normal. Like,
right.
Yeah. And even if you don't want it, that's just it. That's just normal.
Right. So you learn to override your cues, right? You
learn
own internal cues. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's where, you know, the program, the Choose Love program is, you know, choosing love doesn't mean you go along with everything. Right. But that can be how it's conveyed. And it's not at all that. Choosing love is like, it's just
choosing love for yourself.
Exactly.
And boundaries and saying no. I mean, that's what that means. And I think it's really important to underscore the fact that these skills and tools have to be taught. And so if you don't learn them at home and or in school, then you grow up to be an adult and you don't necessarily have them. And so, and socially and emotionally, I always use myself as an example. I was 44 years old and I had graduated from college. I had been an investment banker and bond trader and all this other stuff. I was not socially and emotionally intelligent. I didn't know how to have healthy relationships. I didn't know how to manage my emotions. And I didn't know how to make responsible decisions really, other than at work for myself. And I've learned these, what they're called essential life skills as an adult. And my life is exponentially better despite my personal tragedy. It's helped even with that, helped me grow through it, not be taken down by it. And all of these skills and tools, they're not hard to learn and everyone can benefit from them, everyone. That's why this program is lifespan. And ironically, because of the global pandemic, all of the schools are looking for social and emotional resources. And 7.5 years ago, I would say that would be my dream come true. And I would never have wanted it to be because of a global pandemic. But everybody now knows social emotional learning is a buzzword. And so I believe that we have the best, most comprehensive year-long program available. And now with the pandemic, we even have a special reentry unit, which is specifically designed to meet kids and educators where they're going to be when they come back, assuming some amount of trauma. I mean, if you look at the statistics, between 35 and 50% of kids coming to schools pre-pandemic had experienced a recent traumatic event. And if you know a little bit about the neuroscience, you know that when kids are traumatized, they are working from their freeze, fight, or flight, from their amygdala. They are not in their prefrontal cortex, which is where logic and reasoning reside. It's where they learn. And so they come to school and they can't learn. So this reentry program is designed specifically to bring everyone back to baseline so that they can start learning. And
so I haven't
really
told you this
about that.
I haven't told you this, Scarlett, but I found out for our Livermore School District where I live, we had Scarlett come and they embraced it as a district. And now that we're going back, we're all online, fully online. In 2 weeks, we're going back. And then for elementary, I think all through elementary school, all grades, where they have to log in the morning to, get attendance. And in that slot is where the Choose Love movement will be. So you won't get attendance unless you're in that very first phase of the school day online, which will be the Choose Love curriculum.
That's totally awesome. And that's schools across the country. In the last 4 years, by word of mouth, we're now being taught in schools within every state. And in some states, we're the most taught SEL program in 100 countries. So positively impacting a couple million kids. And it's, this is so important for so many different reasons. We started about talking about child molestation, but this is so important to reduce and prevent bullying, which is at epidemic levels. I don't know 2018 was the deadliest year on record for school shootings, and we had 1 per week. So it was our new normal. That was pre-COVID. Things are not better now. We had twice as many kids hospitalized for attempted suicide and suicidal ideations in this decade than in the previous decade. Loneliness was an epidemic pre-COVID, with 50% of Americans saying that they were lonely. And of course, all the research is based on what's bad about that for us, and that it can lead to death. We know substance abuse is skyrocketing. Well, it was skyrocketing before COVID. We had more deaths from drug overdoses than ever before in the history of mankind. And that was supposed to increase year over year. Now we have COVID, and we know what's happening with substance abuse rates. And the amazing thing is that social and emotional learning, when you teach this, it has an inverse relationship with all of those issues. Wow. And it does it in a different way. It doesn't focus on the issue, although it addresses the issue. It focuses on the cause of the suffering. And you cannot be talking about a solution unless you're addressing the cause. It's not normally the way we think as human beings, so it takes a little bit of courage, but the pandemic has gotten us over that ledge to the point where now everybody's talking about it.
Now there's leverage to actually make those changes. People are ready and going, and it also is going to, teach people at a younger age, so that maybe, again, that they don't become the child molester, that they don't become the abuser of their children, and that they learn in an early stage. And first, I just want to acknowledge you, Scarlett, for sharing something that, as you were saying it, I was saying, same here. Acknowledge you for taking that 100% accountability. And that is part of self-love that we all have to learn and start to model, is to take that 100% accountability. I was the same way at my age, in my 40s, not having that intelligence that I didn't really gain until I had to, till after my daughter died and my marriage crumbled, and all of a sudden you really start looking at yourself. And that is a big step in self-love. Right?
It is. That is choosing love.
Yeah.
For yourself and others, for sure. Yeah.
And that's where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness is also choosing love for yourself. Right. It's not necessarily choosing love for whatever has hurt you or whatever has put you in the situation. You're taking your personal power back and you're choosing love for yourself.
Yeah. And it has to start there. It has to start there, but it has to and that you can go out and teach to children to start knowing what feels safe, how they feel about somebody touching them or speaking to them. I had a woman on a couple of weeks ago, Catherine Wilson, who was sexually abused as a child severely. She was homeless from 12 to 17 and sex trafficked. Her story, a profound story of forgiveness and overcoming and rising above. But my point was that she told a story in there about when she saw somebody in a restaurant, she saw a child that looked scared by the way this person that she was with was touching her. And so much so that Catherine went and told somebody. And it was, so it's just that made me think about even noticing it for people. And so I just feel like people aren't talking about this, Kate. So how did you come to this, and how many people out there now are talking about it besides the three of you who are out there, trying to teach it? Are there more warriors out there trying to teach this important subject?
It's slowly, I would say. It's one of those things. I just started doing it with, and creating it for Choose Love, and looking around and going, okay, where's the material? And I just sort of made it up. And it's slowly gaining traction, because it felt like I created something and I just had to sit and wait for people, for it to gather momentum, for people to want to start talking about it. And so it's just making it available. I speak about it whenever I can, and I would say it's slow moving right now, but I think its time will come, though.
It's time.
Well,
I'll give a shout out to Sylvester Stallone, because his last movie, which was Rambo: Last Blood, that came out in 2019, that was about sex trafficking. And I love watching Rocky movies, and I brought my whole family, and there we are. And it was so hard to watch. And my mom was like, I want to leave. This is terrible. Like, why would anybody create a movie about this? This is the worst. I can't even watch. Like, she because it was introducing this to her, she had no idea. And she's like, that's not even real. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, it is real. And for him to put it in a movie so that people can see it that was brave of him. I don't know how well the movie did, because it's really hard to watch, but that's what really goes on. And it was interesting to see, somebody that was a little bit sheltered, actually being brought up to speed a bit on what actually is happening in our country.
Well, yeah, and I think
every big town, every town across the country and the world.
Right.
And it's our responsibility. Honestly, you know what? I mean, this is what I said after Jessie's murder. I realized, well, obviously Jessie's safety, my son's safety, was my responsibility. He was at school where he was supposed to be by law in his first grade classroom when he was gunned down. But it wasn't the school's responsibility for his safety. It was my responsibility. But then I realized, you know what? All children are all our responsibility. We are responsible for our children's safety. And so this is why, I work so hard at the Choose Love movement, because we know too much not to be introducing social and emotional learning to every child. We know too much. And this isn't just an idea. This has decades of research to back it up. And we know that it's effective where nothing else is. It's the solution. So it's moving forward. Of course, it's never fast enough. But it is, as Kate said, and Dana said, people are becoming more aware, and they're doing it now.
Waking up.
The gift of COVID is a lot of the darkness is being brought forward, and light workers can't shine light into the dark if we don't know it's there, or if the general population isn't educated on what's going on. And Hollywood is now coming forward. And I know Gina's interviewing a gentleman in Hollywood, a movie producer who is also speaking out about child trafficking and sex trafficking, human trafficking. And with one child in a poor neighborhood that is targeted, if they learn the social emotional learning skills in school and they learn this healthy touch, they will know when someone's trying to abduct them, and they can say no and run.
They'll have the confidence, because that's what social and emotional learning gives you. It gives you confidence.
And courage.
You're more courageous. You're more grateful. You understand forgiveness, and you have healthier relationships. You can identify, label, manage, and express your emotions. You look at issues that happen, roadblocks, as challenges rather than being taken down by them. You have the courage to look at them and say, how can I grow through this? You can make responsible decisions. I mean, now you're more creative, you're more innovative, you have more hope, you're more optimistic. There are more solutions when you have social and emotional intelligence. You have more self-awareness, you have more social awareness. There's just a myriad of ways that your life is improved. And then you take these tools in your belt and you use them in every aspect of your life for the rest of your life.
And teach them to your children and their children, and then you have those tools, and that's all part of being resilient in life too, and what you're going through in life. We're all going to go through challenges. So to have these tools, I thought I had a healthy childhood, a happy childhood, but if I had any of those tools, there would have been less codependent behaviors into my future. And anyway, we know this, and it's everything you're saying is just it's so important. It's just so important that we choose love and we pay attention to this and bring it into our schools. And
Gina, you bring up a really valid point there. Even children with healthy families perceive healthy backgrounds. They have two loving parents, and they have all the academia and the sports and the curriculum available to them. Even if they're not learning these skills, they still can grow up to go into codependent relationships and get divorced and not understand. Right?
Yeah, totally. Right. Me and Scarlett, yep. And learn when you're 47 to, really change and shift that and go, or even younger, probably around 44 when I realized how codependence affected me so deeply. I didn't, so yeah. Kate,
I know you had something to say, and I think I cut you off.
No, I think, the point I was going to make, and it's not really following the thread where we've gone to, but it was around the fact that and the Me Too movement really shone a light on this, was that so many of us as women, I would say it's over 50%. So then what is a normal sexual experience, right?
Right.
If we've all had some kind of trauma at some kind of level, again, it's on that continuum, but it starts to affect healthy behavior, then it leaves our children vulnerable to this exploitation that we're seeing on a massive scale. Because in a way, in the shadow, it's why many of us are horrified by seeing something like Sylvester Stallone's movie. It's not only that it's horrifying and that we've been sheltered from it, often it's hitting our wound of our own sexual trauma that we have unresolved and as unaddressed. And so, sometimes it's a combination of both, or we just would turn our head away because it's our biggest fear, right?
Fear.
And how do we have the capacity to stand witness to each other's trauma, and hold that compassion? I mean, that's, I would say, as adults, that's what we struggle with the most, is just, me too, right? Like we're all raising our hand.
Standing up.
Too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely takes courage. And then the question is, We can't, we can't always choose what happens to us in life. And the thing is, we're all connected as human beings by the want and need to love and be loved. Yet we're all going to feel pain and suffer to a certain degree. Yet we all want to be happy and flourish. So we can't always choose what happens to us. The Choose Love movement helps us to be able to take our personal power back and how we thoughtfully respond to situations by choosing love.
Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful way to sort of wrap this up, because I have a feeling we could talk all night. And I just love hearing all the good that you're doing. And we all have an opportunity now to choose love, and that the light is shining on this world to start to stand up and choose love. We are awakening to people knowing they have an opportunity to choose love.
Yes.
And yes. And so ladies, so now the three of you are going to be out there sharing this more. Tell us how what can we do to support you, to know where to find you and all of that. And you just tell me, and I'm going to post again.
We all have our 3 separate efforts, and then we all work together as well. You can reach me and the Choose Love movement at chooselovemovement.org. We have all the free resources on our website. So please, if you like what you heard tonight, please take this information and talk about it. This is a movement. This is how it's spread throughout the world. Talk about it. Bring it into your kids' school. Suggest it. Bring it into your home. Bring it into your communities. There's programming for everything. And honestly, it is the number one way to have a safe school is teaching kids social and emotional intelligence, because it literally cultivates safety from the inside out. So it addresses that as well. So make sure, in order to have a safe school, your school has external and internal safety measures. And we have the capability, digital platforms for distance learning and in person. So check us out.
Please, everybody. And Dana, can you show Scarlett's book? You've got all 3 of your books back there. Oh,
That's awesome.
I know, sorry. The Choose, please, you can pick up Scarlett's books. Sorry, I forgot that of all 3 of us, it's more difficult for you to get.
Here, I've got it. I've got it. It's right here.
Perfect. Scarlett, Nurturing, Healing, Love, and that is the actual picture of what your son wrote, correct?
No, it's not the actual picture. His is phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning how to write. But that's the chalkboard theme.
That's the message. Nurturing, Healing, Love by Scarlett Lewis. Thank you. I mean, amazing. Kate, do you want to tell us how people can find you? Kate's book is From My Hands and Heart. Yeah, perfect. Oh, you good.
Yeah. So my website is kmackinnon.com, KMACKINNON. Because if you Google Kate Mackinnon, you get the famous comedian, not me. So it's MAC. So on that platform, I have my material, and then I have another platform that I co-created with my friend Robin Scher. It's called touchadvocates.com. And on there, we have all of the material that's being created, and how the name says it, Touch Advocates, right?
Yeah, that does.
And the other book I wrote is Elements of a Successful Therapeutic Business, that I co-wrote with Robin. And that's really, out there to support fellow colleagues who are doing hands-on healing work, because we realize that we want everybody, we want to support our profession, because the more we get that good work out there, the more people can get the help they need, and we can start to make changes in multiple different places. And then the 3 of us are doing a podcast together, right, Scarlett, on September the 8th? Are we doing that?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that a podcast or a Zoom?
I don't know.
Podcast. It's a Zoom.
Well, the Zoom, you can turn it into a podcast.
Okay.
This will go on to my podcast.
For me.
Are we doing that with Choose Love?
Yeah, to get a Choose Love and Healing Touch podcast going.
Yes. That's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
I can help you guys with
You
that.
adding more things to my project list, Dana?
Dana.
I thought we came up with that date for the three of us, right? September the 8th. Did we do that?
Well, Kate, we've had a podcast, haven't we, for Choose
I know,
Love?
but the three of us. Are we doing something on September the 8th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so
A Zoominar.
And that will be, how will we'll see that on our social media, right? Choose Love.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Kate
Yes.
on Touch is my handle.
Yes. That we will be promoting that.
Yeah.
For sure.
perfect.
Okay. Over to you, Dana.
So I will be sharing that for you ladies as well, for sure. When you have that all sorted out, 100%, I will do what I can to support what you're doing. It's so important. And you know, we also have Kate also does the craniosacral. It's on her calendar.
It's a soldier summit. Yes,
Oh, sorry, wrong
absolutely.
day.
It's at 7 p. It's actually at 7 p.m. and we were going to do kind of a webinar like this.
Oh, okay.
Gina. Obviously, I'm not going to lead it because I'm not technologically savvy, but
Well, if there's any way I can help you guys, please let me know and I'll definitely support you. So anyone watching, keep that date open to hear these ladies and the more impact that they're making. And I just want to say also one more thing about Kate's healing work. The craniosacral healing can help people in a myriad of ways that they might need, physical, emotional, right, Kate? I just want to share that because, you know, I know that I just asked you before we started because I have a niece who has terrible migraines and I was asking you about how that might help her. So I just want you to real quick talk about the healing so that if somebody's looking for that kind of healing, I know I did a remote healing with you and I had a huge, it made a big impact. So it's okay
incredible.
to do it through Zoom.
I do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we do the hands-on with craniosacral therapy, and I've also trained to do distance healing work, which is using that paradigm, that model, but it's just on the phone, and we do distance work together. So yeah, there's both options.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted people to hear about that real quick. Yeah, do it. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm keeping you guys for a long time, so I'm just gonna let Dana wrap this up with her. So where's your book? You have it, my friend? Perfect. Show everybody your book, Following Up.
You can find on Amazon or on Hay House, or as I prefer, have your local bookstore order it in for you, so you're supporting local book businesses. And you can find me at danaliesegang.com. I am available for speaking engagements. I'm an inspirational, motivational speaker on never giving up, forgiveness, and anything is possible.
Absolutely, you are.
Yes.
Ladies, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I love every single one of you. I'm honored to be in your presence.
Do I do it?
Can I do
There we
this
go.
too? Can I join you?
That's good, Kate.
Is that coming there?
You can do it like this too. Actually, you can do it like that too.
That's better. Can I?
I don't know if my fingers do it.
Well, you were doing it the other way.
Hugs.
All right, so we're gonna do it this way.
Virtual hug.
Passionate touch.
Group
hug. Group hug. Oh, ladies, so wonderful. I love this. I love this. I could do this every week chatting with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Gina.
I appreciate you all. Thank you everyone for watching. Please help and support the Choose Love movement. The world needs this now. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.